All right.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Bill Wayburn, Tarrant County Sheriff. Thank you for being here on this incredible day, Veterans Day, where the country is pausing and thanking those that served on the wall for defending our liberties and freedoms, and we should be celebrating that throughout the day. However, as we are celebrating that, and we're here today just to unfortunately remind our good citizens that evil is still among us. And we have had a record seizure over the last 5 weeks, over 2 incidents where we've seized over 1,400 pounds of pure methamphetamines. That was right here in the greater Tarrant County area. And we can continue to seize these large amounts of drugs. And what we want our constituents to know, and the good citizens of Tarrant County to know, that this is a clear and present danger to us until we continue this fight. But we also want to send a clear signal to the bad guys that as you look across here, there are many patches here from many different agencies. We have federal agencies here, state, and local. We are standing shoulder to shoulder in this fight, and we will continue to do that. We will continue to go after the bad guy, as I like to say, with a gust of a hound dog, and we're going to continue this fight, and we appreciate their incredible support. There are some issues that are still ongoing about these investigations that we can't discuss this morning, but however, nearly 1,500 pounds of pure methamphetamines, and if you see the pictures around here, it's an incredible amount with a street value of almost $16 million. So we believe that we're taking the fight to the bad guys, and we're going to continue to do that. And now I'd like to turn it over to Chief Neal Knox.
Thank you, Sheriff, first of all, for including us in this, and thank you to our veterans on this Veterans Day. What I want to add is that every single day we have dedicated professional men and women, many you see standing here, they go out every single day with a job to make you safer, to make our community safer, and to take dangerous criminals off the streets and dangerous drugs out of our neighborhoods. This is just one example of the amazing partnership all the law enforcement agencies in this area have, local, county, state, and federal. We want you to know that we are all working together, we're all in partnership, and we're all working to make sure Tarrant County, Fort Worth, and this greater North Texas region to make sure it's as safe as absolutely possible. I'm going to turn it over to Special Agent in charge with the DEA in Dallas, Eduardo Chavez.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you all the veterans. My name is Eduardo Chavez. I'm the Special Agent in charge for the DEA Dallas Field Division, which covers Fort Worth. When opioids and counterfeit prescription drugs containing fentanyl can dominate much of the airwaves, DEA Fort Worth and our law enforcement partners here still recognize that methamphetamine is still the area's #1 illicit drug threat. This seizure here, in addition to the over 15,000 pounds of methamphetamine seized over the last 12 months in this area, represent 99% pure methamphetamine. For a drug user, that is putting 99% pure poison into their bodies. The DEA Fort Worth and all of our partners standing here today just stand in unison to be able to take that street level drug transaction all the way up to seizures like this, all the way up into international drug trafficking investigations that will hold these criminal organizations accountable. Our lives depend on it, our family and friends' lives depend on it, and our community deserves it. We appreciate the time this morning. Turn it over to Calvin Bond with the Tarrant County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning. I'll open up to any questions. Like has been said previously, these seizures are still ongoing investigations at the federal and state level, so we have to be generic about this. I was blessed to serve with DEA for many years before I became one of the chief deputies here for the Sheriff's Office, so I've seen it kind of on both sides, and just the ability for an agency like ourselves to call and ask for help, whether it's Fort Worth PD, Mansfield, DPS, or DEA, is an incredible tool for us. And that's one of the things I wanted to stress to the community is that we do work together. We have very strong partnerships. We're very transparent with each other, and it's a great situation. I've been stationed all over the world, And this area right here in terms of working together is outstanding. So any questions on this, I'll be happy to say what I can say about them.
How is law enforcement zeroed in on these stashes of methamphetamine?
That's a good question. So there's multiple seizures that are represented here by the photographs. One of them was started by actually great police work. One of our officers found a stolen vehicle through a license plate reader, which is a device mounted on our cars, and when you drive by a vehicle that's stolen, we'll get an alert. And he stopped and followed up the investigation, which ultimately led to a search warrant, which led to a seizure here. So that is very good police work from the lowest level up. And then some of these other investigations are part of working with informants, people that we have arrested that have been involved in the operation, that we give them an opportunity to help themselves, and they work. A lot of surveillance, and all that goes into this.
Can we talk about the scale of this drug bust? Just put it in perspective. We heard the number 16 million, but can you put it in perspective what that means?
These are very, very significant seizures. They're cartel seizures, I believe. The cartels are here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I can let other people here talk about that, but they're here because they can make a lot of money. And they're here because of where we are centrally located in the U.S. with the highways and our proximity to Mexico. And they've been here for a long time. They're very strong here, unfortunately. It is a clear and present danger to our citizens in this area. But this is cartel drugs, and a lot of people are involved with this.
How many people were arrested on this?
These are ongoing, so there are a lot of people that don't know yet that are going to be arrested. So we're still doing follow-up. Some people were initially arrested. Some people cooperate, some don't. And then because of the federal laws that we have with conspiracy, we're able to indict a lot of these people later on that directed this to happen that weren't necessarily at the scene.
So far, how many, if you can say?
I can't say that, yes, sir. And this is a mixture of several investigations as well.
I don't know if this would be for you or for Chief Knox or for Sheriff Wayburn, but it seems like almost every other month we're doing stories about major methamphetamine busts, and depending on what part of North Texas you're in, I guess a lot of times it's more in the more rural areas that methamphetamine is a huge problem. How do we get methamphetamine off the streets once and for all?
Well, that would be great, Andrew. We would love to do that. Unfortunately, right now, I think that because of the border issues and the border crisis, that we're seeing a lot of that dope come from down south, and this is cartel drug. And by the way, I think, or at least by the evidence I've seen, is that we're kind of a hub. We've got all these interstates that come through here. The dope shows up here, and it's going to go to other places, to L.A. County or Middlesex County, Massachusetts. It could show up anywhere. But we have got to, the sources are going to be in another country right now that we've got to be able to stop, is my personal view. And that's what the evidence that I've seen that leads me to say that.
And so you say this is a record seizure?
Record for Tarrant County Sheriff's Office. Absolutely.
Do you know prior to this, like what was the previous record?
I think that earlier this year, unfortunately, we'd set a record of our own where we seized 400 pounds earlier in with liquid meth. So we'd like for that to stop. But not that the good police work, don't misunderstand me, we want to continue doing that. But we believe the bad guys are working and working at will, and one of the things we want to do this morning is send a message that from Dallas to Fort Worth to DEA to DPS, we're coming for them, and we're not going to put up with it in Texas.
Does anybody can do a quick statement in Spanish, or I can do it at the end? Because anybody can...
We can do that afterwards if you'd like.
Do afterwards with you?
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
Can you talk about the process? Were they cooking meth? What were they doing? I mean, because when they're processing, it's very dangerous.
Yes.
They can explode. It smells. No one said anything. Your officers just happened to find a stolen vehicle. And
Right.
They're determined that you came up with this.
Right. So this is an evolution of meth and how it's produced in the U.S. Earlier, 20, 30 years ago, when I was a street agent here for DEA, it was cooked in small labs here. Organized biker gangs were involved with it, and a lot of the meth came from California at that time. The situation is completely different. Almost all of this meth is made in Mexico. It's produced in Mexico in a high quality situation, as you can tell by the purity levels. And then a lot of times it is converted into liquid form and then smuggled across the U.S. border. it's easier for the cartels to get the drugs across the border without detection if it's in liquid form. In my career, I've seen it in diesel trucks with a different compartment. Some of this was in paint, commercial quantities of paint for your home. I've seen it in iced tea, I've seen it in beer, and so, you know, your imagination is your limit there, but it's brought over in liquid form. And what we see here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area now are businesses and homes that receive the liquid form, and then they crystallize it out. And so one of the common ways to do that is actually heat alcohol up to a boiling temperature, and then you put the alcohol in the methamphetamine, and it starts to crystallize. They let it dry, and it's much more involved than that, but that's kind of the idea. So what our officers are seeing now when they execute a search warrant is a home that may not have any furniture, but there'll be methamphetamine all over the floor in containers that's drying and crystallizing out. And that's what they sell on the street. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty dangerous, isn't it, when the officers do execute the search warrant?
It is. It is, because a lot of times they're heating a chemical that if it's not handled the right way can explode or catch on fire. And unfortunately, most of the people we deal with, not just in meth, but they're armed. And they want to protect. This represents a lot of money, as you can see. So.
Can you mention, I mean, Special Agent in charge from DA mentioned cartels. Do you have a particular cartel or that you could talk about or?
You know, not necessarily. I mean, a lot of the cartels are obviously Mexican-based drug trafficking organizations, you know, from Sinaloa to the CJNG, or, you know, Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación. A lot of that responsibility for just the transiting areas up into North Texas are theirs. And so what you see, much like some of my colleagues have mentioned, are just simply the hubs, the naturally occurring interstates that pass through these areas, you know, utilized to be able to transport it, not only for consumption here in the DFW area, but for other points further east.
Can somebody talk about the charges these guys face? Who've been arrested? Are they going to be federal, local, combination of both?
It'll be a combination of both, and that's normal. When we partner, not only do we partner at the street level working with different investigators and agents, but we partner with the prosecutors. And so what we try to do is the prosecutors, along with the case agents, determine, you know, who has the best venue, basically, who has the best evidence. And then under the federal laws, the conspiracy laws are very, very powerful. That's how we end up getting a lot of people that were not here physically but directed these activities. So it's a combination normally of both federal and state prosecution.
Any cash seized with all this stuff?
There was some cash seized with it. A lot of the cartels are very good about keeping their cash separate from where the drugs are. So this is evidence of that.
Okay. About international cooperation from the other countries, are they cooperating with you guys to help you?
You know, generally speaking, this is a never-ending process, you know, from the initial seizure on a traffic stop, perhaps, to the initial idea of who was in charge in this particular area, to identifying those outside of this area and even internationally. That is the blessing, frankly, that we have here with all of our colleagues. We do not just stand up here and have made introductions with each other 5 minutes ago. We all know each other. All of our officers and our agents work together. And so this process is ongoing. With DEA's offices in Mexico as well, we have that advantage to be able to bring the fight to them in their backyard.